Learning to love again. So for this is the session for those that have loved and lost and afraid of loving again and afraid of having anyone to love again. Because what I know from personal experience and speaking with lots of people is that that might be one of the biggest fears of lost love and then trying to love again because that takes so much energy. I know that's one of the hardest things to do is to try to regain some of that strength to even put yourself out there. So hopefully we can work on some things today and give you some tips on how to move past that. Okay? And so learning to love again, the objectives that we're going to look at today are releasing myself from the pains and struggles of broken dreams and promises. The next one is how I forgive myself and the partners who hurt you, how to take the appropriate steps to address and manage your grief. And I know it may sound odd, grief, of someone died. Not all of you may have experienced the death of a loved one, but once you do separate, divorce, estranged partner, it's like going through the grieving process. And so I think it's important to identify those stages so you know where you're at and what you're dealing with. Lots of people don't realize that when you lose a relationship, an intimate relationship, even best friends, non-intimate, it's still grieving because that person is no longer a part of your life anymore. They're not, you know, here circulating around you. So it's as if they have died and passed on. And then there's some instances that you have to grieve while still seeing this person. You may fly in the same circles, if you will. So learning how to manage that and knowing where you are in the grieving process, and then learning how to love self at all cost. So I know that not everyone has loved and lost the same. So, if you don't mind sharing a little bit, if you don't mind sharing, if you have lost someone, if you're divorced, or if you've lost someone and you're a widow, do you mind sharing that and with where you guys are in this? Anybody in the chat feature? Share a little bit about where you are in this, going through a divorce. Yes, ma'am. And if you're still in the middle of it, it's hard. A widow, yes, going through those grieving stages. And one thing about the grief is that it goes in phases. Eventually, hopefully, that in time it will fade. And that's the hopes. That's the that that it will fade so you can move on. Because it takes a lot of energy to hold on to that pain. And if you're going through a divorce and with children, is your kids will definitely grieve differently than you're grieving because their life is still going. They're so resilient. Children are so resilient that they're able to go through all of these trying times and still move on. And you're just like, oh, I'm stuck here. How am I still stuck here? And they're acting like everything is okay. Or either you're trying to help them grieve the separation. So if you don't know yourself, you certainly can't help them. So what we're going to do today is we're going to get on it. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sharing uh, on that. And use the chat feature, please. It's really helpful so I can see. All right. Also, divorce. Okay. Single, never married. All right. So, hey, this is going to give you guys some tips, some insight. That's great. And then lost love and breakups. Breakups can go into that, separations and so forth. So, we are going to dive into that. All right. So, we got our objectives. Releasing myself from the pains and struggles of broken dreams and promises. A big part of those broken dreams is we have expectations of ourselves. Well, I'm not going to say that we personally do, but society does. Society likes to put everything in this nice little box and hand it over to you, and then we have to live within the context of that box. So if you are 35 and you have never been married, the constructs of the way people are around us are going to be like, girl, why aren't you married? You're so pretty, or what's wrong? What's wrong with you if you know that you're not married yet? And it's a strange conversation because then you're like, well, should I be? And then we start living through those expectations of other people. We also will look on Facebook on how everybody is living their best life with their partner and just living it up. Oh, they look so happy. But on the other side of that picture, you're not seeing the hurt, those broken promises that happened. And it's all a sham, you guys. It really is. You don't have to live through the expectation or lens of someone else. So the quote down here is, don't hold on to anger, hurt, or pain. They steal your energy and they keep you from love. So identify where you're at, shutting your emotions out, overworking or underworking, identifying what's going on with me. Tell talk to yourself and get an idea of, am I grieving still? Did this just happen? I'm still angry. First off is identifying where you are in this. Because if you continue to hold on to this negative energy ball, it's just going to break you down even more. Okay? So, how to forgive myself and the partners who hurt me. So that's a big deal. Learning how to forgive. And especially, it's not common that people know how to forgive themselves or the partners who hurt you. So I'm going to take a pause real quick. I think I hear Pastor Brenda. Are you here, Miss Brenda? Yes, you're with me. Hello, hello.
Oh, okay.
Glad you could join
So
us.
I just want to jump in with you guys.
Please
Let's
do.
keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I was able to hear you. I just weren't able to hear everything else.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yes.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're
Thank
here.
you.
So, what we were working on is, I know that you took a pause and weren't on, but now we're how to forgive ourselves and the partners who hurt me. So, learning to forgive, that's what we need to start with. And I like to define things, and so I'm old school. So, I went to the dictionary and I looked up to forgive. And what I found was forgiveness is a process where someone who has been wronged chooses to let go of their resentment and treat the wrongdoer with compassion. And with that, it's like, well, Christine, what are you talking about? How do I forgive myself with that? Well, the part is identifying that pain that's there, because we talk to ourselves very negatively. If we spend any time alone, think about all the negative stuff that pops up. All those anxieties come up. And so in order to forgive, you have to see it for what it is. It's like, you know what, you made a bad decision. It's all your fault, girl. That's why you're by yourself. That's why people keep cheating on you, or that's why you don't have a man now. So we talk to ourselves so horribly, but we've got to forgive ourselves and say, you know what, it's okay. And so what we need to know about forgiveness is what it is and what it isn't, you know, and then apply it to yourself first. You got to put that oxygen mask on yourself first, and then on the person that you're wanting to forgive. Okay. So let's take a look at it. Let's define what it is and what it isn't. Forgiveness is deciding to overcome the pain inflicted by another. In regards to ourselves, we've got to look in within and think about, okay, what kind of pain am I inflicting on myself? Okay. We'll look into that a little bit in the next slide. Letting go of anger, resentment, shame, and other emotions associated with injustice, even though they're reasonable feelings. Things happen, right? Things happen, and we hold on to that resentment, that anger. Thinking about a widow, sometimes we can't let go of that person that died, and we're mad at them. I mean, really genuinely mad at the person that's gone on to glory. Why did you leave me?
Mm.
What am I going to do, without you? So, letting go of that anger and resentment and moving past it. I mean, they're real valid feelings because, our understanding is not our, in our own. We don't understand that purpose. So we've got to learn to, let go of that. And then treating the offender with compassion, even though they're not entitled to it. When things are done wrong to you. So, say for instance, you're in this bitter divorce, you have children, you know, uh, and they're in the middle of it, and you have to treat that other person with compassion because at some point you were in love with that person. Your heart went to that person. And because they broke your trust, yeah, they may not be entitled to it because of some wrongdoing or leaving you. You have to learn to allow, to say, hey, this is bigger than beyond me, but all I can do is be here in this moment so I can have a better future. So I'm going to treat that person with compassion. And I know I see some eyes rolling, and I can't see all your faces, but I know there's some eyes rolling right now about treating them with compassion. Are you kidding me? That person is taking me through the ringer, or that person is even here for me to do that. I know that sounds hard, but we're going to learn how to do it. I'm going to give you some steps, okay?
Yeah.
So, what forgiveness isn't,
Mm.
forgetting the injustice. Okay, we're just going to forget that, you ran up all my credit cards. I can't forget that. And each month, you're going to get a bill to be a reminder of a bill that you didn't create. Okay, we can't forget the injustice, but we can let it go. That's your choice. And you're doing everything to recoup that. Yeah, Christia, hey, I shouldn't even been in that position. Maybe not, but it's a lesson in this too. You got to look at the lesson, not just the stuff that's going on.
Mhm.
The forgiveness, also condoning or excusing the offender's behavior. Okay, saying, oh, it was okay, no big deal, thinking it's okay, no litigation or what have you. No, it's not saying that it's okay that that happened. You have to speak up for yourself and say, what, that wasn't fair. But we also have to remember that forgiveness is for us, not the other person.
Yeah.
There's someone much bigger and badder than us that is going to forgive that person.
Yeah.
And it's not us. We don't have that power, but we can start at home and forgive, like ourselves. We talk to ourselves so ugly, and we're like, we don't think that we're worthy of another relationship because we chose poorly before.
Mhm.
So that offender, we're the offender. We're the ones that, made a poor choice on our third marriage. You know, that happens, you guys. That you have multiple marriages and you see yourself as the offender. There must be something wrong with me.
Mhm.
And what it is that you haven't forgiven yourself in order to move on. Forgiveness isn't letting go, but wishing for revenge. Oh, yeah, karma doesn't forget an address. "Ooh, I'm over it, but, I can't wait." Well, see, that's not letting go. You scouring Facebook to find out what's happening with him or her. You know, you're like, I can't wait. Oh, look, he got COVID. See, that's not letting go. That is not forgiveness. Okay. That is not forgiveness. And then forgiveness isn't necessarily reconciliation. All right. That doesn't mean that you have to, go back to your estranged husband or wife. That doesn't mean that, that you guys have to be, besties or anything like that. If there's children involved, that reconciliation is going to look a little different because you have to present as a united front. And I know some divorcees out there knows that that's a tough thing. But we're going to talk about that too because that comes with self and identifying as individuals of like I'm not doing what's right. Just own it. Yeah, I'm still mad at her. Yeah. I don't see how she's seeing that other dude. So starts at home, all right? And it doesn't necessarily mean consideration, reconciliation. So Pastor Brenda, you were laughing really hard about letting go and the revenge.
Because I think it's so valuable what you're sharing, because we have to validate where we are personally. When admit I have been wrong, I am hurt, I I feel neglected. I feel abused. I feel like that violation has knocked the wind out of me. However, I will not allow it to redefine who I am and cause me to lose confidence in who I was created to be. And I think
Mhm.
that is where forgiveness begins to really blossom. It's more than just a recognition, but it's being able to say, I will not let that offense define who I am. And I don't
That's
think that
right.
that takes time. I don't think that that comes easily, quickly, or without um, God's intervention.
Yes,
Become
ma'am.
because some grievances are just too egregious, and
Mhm.
it feels too egregious, and so we got to have that kind of connection. And as we go on, even having that support system that can help us through the stages that we'll go through as we are dealing with the pain. I as a nurse, we teach our patients this strange but simple phenomena, perhaps, and that is to embrace the pain.
Mhm.
What does that mean? Embrace the pain. I'm hurting. Yes, we recognize you're hurting, but if you can stop fighting and just understand, I'm going to hurt a little bit right here. So let me hold on and let me go through this, because a there is support on the other side. And I just think that is a very, very important in our healing process. I'll go back to you now, Christine.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you so much because you made me remember the word that I wanted to, especially for this group, is intentional.
Mm.
You have to be intentional with this because we can put these words on the screen, we can say them, and we make it sound so simple and easy. Like you said, embrace the pain. What do you mean by that? Ew, ooh. So we're fighting against it in all essence.
Mhm.
When you start flinching, right? Like when you guys give shots. As a nurse, we flinch, people flinch up, right? And you're like, no, 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 relax, relax. That's embracing it, right?
Mhm.
So, and it's not easy. It's not easy. And you're like, okay, well, that's an external pain, but it's the same context. It takes intentionality, if that's a word, to let go of that pain. And it starts from with us. We forgot to forgive ourselves first for that, for being angry, for giving all that energy. Because we can't forgive others if we don't feel forgiven by God ourselves.
That's right.
We cannot forgive others if we don't feel forgiven by God ourselves. And how do you feel forgiven? You got to let go. You got to embrace it. You've got to work through it. You got to feel it. You got to consciously think about, let me just go through this. Let me sit in it. Because is holding on to this pain going to stop that divorce? No. Is it going to stop the death of a loved one? Nope. Is it going to stop that ex, that, boyfriend, girlfriend that you had from walking out the door? Nope. It's going to happen regardless.
Mhm.
So stopping trying to hold on to that pain because you're afraid of feeling it is not going to stop the act from happening.
Mm.
It's stopping you from growing. That's what it's stopping. So learning to allow. So forgive yourself first for loving, believing in, and trusting. It's okay. Those are all things that you will experience as a human being. You are being human. So you're going to love, you're going to believe in, you're going to trust someone. That just happened to be the wrong person for you at the time.
Mhm.
Or is it the right person for you at the time? You see that? So that was the person that needed to come into your life in order to make you move.
Mm.
There's no mistakes, you guys. There are no mistakes. I know that's sometimes beyond our thinking and our cognition and our presence, and our processing. But think about it. It got you moving. It got you thinking. It puts you on your feet. You're like, wait a minute. Am I evolving or am I not? So with that, acknowledge the mistake. Okay, well, I made this decision. This was a shotgun wedding. I was pregnant at 16, so it just was normal to just go ahead and get married, you know. But was it? But was it? So forgive yourself. I should have waited. It's okay. You know what? You're still here to rectify that issue, to
Mhm.
be forgiven. Give yourself permission to be, it's okay. And remember that there's a plan greater than our own. Okay, so acknowledge it. Yeah, I should have been paying attention. I should have went ahead and kept my head. We're going to get to that because it's about yourself first. You've got to identify those things that's going on with you first. Because if you think you're too young to get married and everybody else is saying, oh, you got to get married because you have this baby, then you have to say, wait a minute, people, I'm not getting married. I don't want to get married. I have a whole child. I understand that. But that's not the person for me.
Mhm.
Okay. So acknowledge the mistake and give yourself permission to have emotions. It's okay to be mad. And I
Yeah.
know so often society tells us, and or individuals, your circle of friends, it happens, I've heard it, that you're not allowed to grieve a divorce. Oh, girl, I'd be so mad, but you got to get over it. You do, but it's in your time. Other people try to tell you how you should feel. Oh, you lost your partner. Oh, they died. Time to move on and start dating. But maybe you're not ready to start dating after you lost your husband or wife. That may not be where you are
Mhm.
because you're still in pain.
Mhm.
And then next is challenge your inner critic. When you are feeling that it's an issue with you, okay, you've got to challenge that person that keeps flooding you with all these negative things. It's like, see, I should have did this because God is punishing me, because I made this bad decision, and oh, I'm this is what I'm worth. I've lost two great boyfriends, and were they great? If they were great, they would still be there. They may not be great for you. So you got to challenge that inner critic. And I'm going to give a quick little science, about our frontal lobe. If we've been heartbroken or traumatized, our frontal lobe is that net that you have, that you judge everything that comes into your body. So anything you hear, anything you see and feel and touch, if it's damaged because you're in pain, you're going to see it. Everything is going to be negative.
Yes.
Everything that you see, hear, feel, experience is going to be through a negative lens. That's on you. No one can do that for you.
Hmm.
You've got to challenge that inner critic and like, well, wait a minute. I think I'm pretty awesome. I have my own business. I have a child that I raised and I'm raising, and I've been blessed to have a home, over a roof over my head, a car, and I know I'm just scraping by right now. But you know what? If I thought I was going to get married, and had a great relationship then, won't he do it for me again?
All right.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. So challenge that inner critic, because once again, you got to retrain your brain
Mm-hmm.
from thinking the way it's thinking. And it's just that because we've come with trauma. So we got to take some ownership of that. All right. So let go of your plan. Let go, let go, let go. We have a plan. Oh, by 30, I'm gonna get married. By this time, I'm gonna have kids. And this and that. Okay. So your spouse ends up in the hospital. What do you do? That plan is out the window. You know, so you've got to instead, I mean, I know everyone knows how to pray when things are good. We do. We're good at praying. We're like, oh, please let me do the prayer. When things are going well with our lives, but when tragedy hits and it hits you in the gut, we don't know what to do or say. Come with
Yes.
that same energy, you guys. Same energy. Nothing has changed besides you. God's still there. The church, the house is still over there. Your pastors and so forth, they still got the same numbers. So come with that same energy. Let go of what the plan that you have and give it right back to who started it. So get back into alignment. So if there was things that you were doing before, start doing it again. You were going to Bible study, you were, hanging around with friends that are enlightened. People that, touch you and inspire you and have that spiritual connection, that same direction that you're going. Get back in alignment with that. Your meditation, your prayer, silence. Silence is so important. That's how you hear. But what we don't do is when we get uncomfortable and things get quiet, we start feeling that quiet with stuff. And most of the time it's not good stuff. Oh, I'll just watch a little bit of this Atlanta Housewives, or I'll watch some of this 48 hours that's going to taint my mind and think so everybody's out to get me. No, switch it back to good things, that prayer,
Mm-hmm.
that good old fashioned, communication, get that spiritual connection. And
Yeah.
I like this next one is take the L. People are like, what, girl? No, take the lesson, not the loss. You're like, oh, I'm just gonna take the L on this one and oh well. No, take the lesson. Look back at that and what was going on and where you needed to be in order to make these decisions of moving on. I have this partner that I was with and now they're gone. What do you need to do? Get back to where you were when you were feeling good. You were okay before,
Mm-hmm.
and you will be again. This is just one of those times in your life that you have to take a detour in order to find your way back. It's a challenge. It's a test, to see, hey, because when things are going good and you're just like, oh, like I said with the prayer, oh, I can pray all day, and you can sit and be in silence. But when tragedy hits, we go back to our old ways.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to come back to them and figure out what's going on with us. Get back. All right.
Yes. Christia,
What's
I was
Yes,
kind of,
ma'am.
as you were sharing that, you know, um, it's it. I almost could envision someone in a pit
Mm,
and someone throwing down a rope and saying, pull yourself out. Let's
hmm
pull. Let's get out of it. Pulling ourselves out of that funk, because in we can cocoon ourselves in our dismay. And I really am a believer that everybody needs to have a season of mourning
mm,
throughout scripture, and even in many cultures they go through a season of mourning. They put on their sackcloth and ashes, and they have that time um, to bury themselves, so to speak, in that sorrow. But they recognize that when the sun comes up and it's a new day, it almost reminds me, if I can use this analogy, when David was mourning over his firstborn son, and after during the time that he was in mourning, um, the child was still alive, but he was holding on to life, and the counselors around him were trying to comfort him, but he couldn't be comforted. And as soon as the child died, the Bible says that he went and he showered and he cleaned up and he went and had dinner, and everyone's looking like the child's dead now. Why are you moving on? And his message to them was, I cannot change what has occurred, but now I must prepare myself to go forward.
That's
I
right.
must prepare myself for what has been, what's now in the past. I must
Hmm.
find a way to locate my new normal, so that I am able to be successful with where my destiny is going to lead me. This
Hmm.
was a sorrowful moment, and I, I cried during the season that I was hoping and praying and fasting for it to change, but it didn't change. So now that it didn't change, I've got to change.
Hey, yes, I
I,
love it.
I've got to make the adjustment. I've got to find a way to fix me, so that what was don't become what will always be.
Speed. All right. Yes, ma'am. I love it. Yes, and that is right on time. Right on time. Because we do have to continually move forward. Because this is life. It's not waiting for us. It's going to keep moving with regardless. So I
Mhm.
love how, you come out anew. You had mentioned a cocooning, you know, and what do the worms do once they get cocooned? They
Mhm.
turn into a butterfly. So on the other side of this loss, there's a lesson. There's life. Okay. And you said it, and it's so funny that you said that, because here it is. Forgive your younger self, believe in your current self to create your future self.
Wow, I like it.
You had just hit on that. And I'm just like, boom. I love it when a plan comes together, because it's, know that you did come through a lot, last year, yesterday, an hour ago. Believe in your current self. Know that you are equipped with what you need, the skill set, in order to create your better future. So, you guys that are out there that are going through a divorce, you're looking back at all that you've been through. Oh, I was so deceived and whatever, whatever. You got to forgive that self and believe in your power right now, and know that you're creating a good foundation for yourself and those any kids that are involved, in order to create a brighter future for yourself. You got to take that with you. That is a good one. Thank you, Pastor Brenda. Next is forgiving your partner. It's easier to forgive an enemy than to forgive a friend. Why do we think that is? Because, those people that are closest to you, you've been vulnerable around. Now, your enemies out there, you're not showing them nothing. You're not giving up anything. So you already have this boundary where they're not going to get to you. And the reason why it hurts so bad with those closest is because we've let down our walls. We have. And that's a good thing, because you get to move forward. Just like, Pastor Brenda had mentioned, it's now we're collecting our skill set and coping, and we are moving forward. So, forgiving your partner for taking or leaving you alone, the pain that was caused, injustice or unfairness that happened. And I can relate to this because I watched my mom mourn and the loss of my father. And I got to watch it from a different vantage point because it was like, why did you leave me? And that was just startling to me. I remember it like it was yesterday. Those words of like, those were strong. Why did you leave me?
Mhm.
And so she had to come to an understanding of it's ran its course. It's
Mm.
your time now. It's your time now. You've learned from this man what you needed to learn. Now is your turn. And if you've gone through, any kind of loss like that and you had to deal with grief, it's hard. It's a different kind of grief, but it's still there. It's still poignant. It's still painful. And it seemed unfair to have lost him in that way. But
Mhm.
once again, we have to release ourselves, you know, from that and know that we got to keep moving. We've got to release that and be prepared for this lesson that you've just learned to go out into the world. You
Yes.
have to change from blaming to understanding. And that's kind of that process of, when you're stuck in that painful spot and you don't want to get out, you're feeling depressed, you can't get up, you can't get going, it's blaming whomever. And I've met people that have been angry with God through this, for the divorce. It feels like a betrayal. Oh, you let me down. I asked for a man and you took him away. I asked for a wife and she's gone. Changing from blaming to understanding what's going on from a bigger picture. And I know it's hard to separate yourself from that emotion, but you have to step back from it and know that there is a greater issue going on
Mhm.
than you. We have our plans, and it feels good, you guys, to have that control. We think we have control. We really do. It feels comfortable. Each day you're gonna come home, you're gonna pull into your driveway, you're gonna, get your stuff out of the car, and you're gonna be greeted by your family. As we know now, within this last year, that can change. That new normal that we have now, that doesn't happen. Don't come touch your loved one because they can become ill. So now you have this new way of doing things. You've changed from, you know, the just greeting to like cleaning yourself off first, taking off all your clothes, putting it in the washer, taking a shower. Then you start to go and greet your family. So instead of blaming and being mad at, oh, this old COVID, now I can't do this, and, I've lost this person, you come to a place of understanding, okay? And then releasing the wound, letting go. What does that mean? Releasing the wound. We continually will, if we have a scratch, let's use like a scratch if we have, and you don't take care of the wound, okay? You don't take care of the wound. You have a cut and you don't, put something on it, you don't put the antibacterial on it. You just walk around with your hand on top of it. Is that going to heal? Probably not. It more than likely will get infected. And so you got to release the wound. In order to do that, is you've got to know that it will heal, but you've got to put into it. You've got to be intentionally trying to find the right thing, the skill set, the coping in order to heal that wound.
Mhm.
It's that continuous forward movement. Okay, you got to find it and knowing when to let go. In death, when we lose a spouse, it's you keep all his or her clothes in the closet. You don't move anything. And it's a phase that you go through is you want to keep everything as such because you're in that mourning time. You want to hold on to it a little bit longer. And But if you prolong it and continue to let go after time, it's going to cause you damage.
Mm,
You're going to be unsafe. You're going to be traumatized. There's been people that have had anxiety where they can't go out and
mhm,
leave their home
mhm,
because of that being held on to.
mhm.
And you can't get any further than your door because you won't let go of that pain. And you ask, so how do you know if I've let go? I tell myself every day that to let it go. Well, are you triggered by the things in the closet, or you're accepting and saying, oh, okay, it's time for me to get rid of some of these things and start to slowly let go of these things and giving them to people that need it? That's knowing that, okay, I'm in the process of letting go. I'm going in the right direction here. But if it triggers you and you end up on the floor crying and bawling, you haven't let go yet.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's those phases that it'll peak and then it'll come down where you get acceptance. And we'll talk a little bit more about the grieving process in a minute. But forgiving your partner, knowing when to let go of that pain that's been caused.
Christia, I do want to
Yes,
just
ma'am.
in a little bit there because, I know that as we're embracing this lesson, at this juncture, it almost sounds somber.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness, are we ever going to get to anything that's more kinder?
Yeah.
Yes, we will. But this is the reality. If we don't identify where we are or what our emotions are connected to, it's difficult for us to be able to progress to the next phase in our development. And I want to say because we lump together the loss of a spouse in the form of death and divorce. But I also want to emphasize that when we break up with someone that we have given time and our emotions to and resources and bore children with. We may not have married them, but still
Hmm.
bore children with. A separation is a separation. A
Exactly.
tear is a tear. Whether it
Hmm.
they went up the aisle and it ended in death, whether it ended in I can't stand you no more, don't call my number, lose my number, whether it's that kind of situation, regardless, there is a process where we have to go through that grieving. And so I wanted very much for us to realize that that somber moment is a result of the stages that we go through when we've lost. And sometimes, Christine, I know that you're going to hit this, but while I'm thinking about it, sometimes we jump over this stage because we just want to get right to I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good,
We
I'm
are
good.
so good at that
Yeah,
to say that we're fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
We just jump right over it instead of allowing ourselves to process the disappointment
Hmm.
and and the tears I don't want to belabor that, but as we go to the fun stuff, as we go to the inner healing, because I know that's where you're taking us, but I just think it's so important that we understand that when we're a jack in the box and we're jumping over uh, um, some of the things that God want to take us through. We
Hmm.
learn lessons when we go through.
Yes, ma'am.
We learn some things. We learned some things when we went through the winter storm. We learned some things. We figured out real quick we need to know where the candle's at and where the batteries are at and
Yep.
have some extra water. And we learned some things.
Yes,
And that
ma'am.
is very key in us having preparation. And so that doesn't mean that we build walls, but
Mm-mm.
it does mean that we come to grips with where we are and who we are. And
Yes.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback on so much that your slide was sharing with us.
And definitely, I love that analogy because once again, this is a learning process. Once we accept, if you will, that we are ever forever evolving and learning. And that winter storm did teach us stuff because you're like, oh, okay, I didn't even know where the water pump is outside that you turn off. I didn't
Mm,
know. I didn't know. And I have friends that didn't know they were supposed to let the fountain drip or the pipes were going to get busted or, you just learn so much. You learn how to chop wood and, you learn so many different things and in the midst of that, and yes, let the tears flow. That goes back to that forgiveness. Forgive yourself for having emotions. We get mad at ourselves because we're mad.
mhm.
We get mad because we're crying. I've heard people apologize for crying. I'm sorry, why are you apologizing? You're human. You should be having these emotions, and that's great because you may need to access this empathy and sympathy at some other point in time in your life. So definitely go through it because you may be meeting someone that needs to hear your good word and your testimony. So if you just jump right over it and just keep it pushing and live up to other people's expectation. I've even heard clients tell me that their mom was like, "Oh, honey, you need to come on and get over this. It's been a year now. It's been a year now. You should be over the death of your husband. Should really? Should I be?" And then that adds a conflict to you, thinking through your brain. Well, should I? What's right? What's wrong? You know, Forgive yourself for those thoughts. If you
Yeah.
need extra time to sit on the couch and watch some sad movies and get it all out, by all means do it because it gives you strength. There's some energy in tears. Okay, all of this is tears.
Yes.
That energy is, and so don't skip over the good stuff. You got to go through it. You got to
Yes.
go through it.
That's what
Yes,
Haagen
man.
Dazs is for.
Mhm. He makes the cookies is mine, cookie dough. So
Yeah. Gotta have some every now and then, just a couple of days of that, and then we go back.
right, and then you move forward and know that you have to.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Now we're moving on to the grief. Okay, and how to manage it. So, taking the appropriate steps to address and manage grief. So, the stages of grief that my philosophy syncs with is Kubler Ross. It's a model of grief. It's identifying what you're going through. And I believe that there's 5 stages. There's been multiple ones, but these are the ones that I myself have went through, and I like to use real people rather than just guesswork. And
Mm.
so this is what I feel that, we go through as people. But I think we need to be able to mention it because if you can mention it, you can manage it. You're putting it out there on the table so you can see it. It's no longer running around and hitting more negative stuff in your brain. It's right there. So, identifying the stages of grief. One is denial. This can't be happening. I know that this is not happening. No, he didn't. No, she didn't. I can't believe this. You're in denial about what's going on. And I mean, at varying levels. I mean, there's seriously times that you can't believe it. How many times have you picked up the phone to call your deceased spouse or
Mhm.
partner? And it's been just a few matter of weeks. You get off work, the habitual thing to do is to call, and say, "Hey, I'm on my way," or "What do you want to eat?" And you do that.
Mhm.
Your
Mhm.
brain just does it because your brain is trying to help you and protect you. It's really scientific, and I really think it's so exciting because it's like, how does your brain know to do that? If it's trying to protect you from that pain, but because your brain just does that, you flinch up when things are happening, you close yourself off. but you got to go through it. And so sometimes you got to sit with that denial. Did I just try to call my wife? And she has been gone. We had her funeral 3 weeks ago. Sit with that a
Well,
minute and let yourself really go through it and get some acceptance of like, wow, they're gone.
mhm,
They are really gone. The next is anger. Why is this happening to me? It seems like all these things were going, and now me. Why did you do this? Why has thou forsaken me?
hmm,
Hmm, is right. There. Why have you forsaken me? Why is this going on? I pray, Lord, I pray. I do good, but now this is happening to me. That's that part where you have to step back and it's like, hold on. This is all in order for me to go through this, to be see the good on the other side.
yes,
There's a testimony in this. Yes, and so when somebody hears this, they're going to be like, you know what? I sure was angry. And I know that that's just anger and turning away, from what we know that will work. That blame game that we talked about, that forgiveness piece. That's what has to happen right now. You sit with that anger and be like, what? That's troubling. I'm mad about what? I have to really understand that that's what's supposed to be happening. I know this is hard, and I know, guys, that this is talking about that special next level of thinking and being and existing
mhm,
to get through it. That's those coping skills of really just shining a light on where it's hitting. And just like, with when it's with a person that you're divorcing or separating from or splitting ways if you were dating, it's angry. Your anger. And it could be addressed at yourself. I'm mad. I'm mad at me for even choosing that person. And now look at me. Or I choose to leave them because they were just sorry. Why did I do that? It's that, getting anger. Why angry? Why is this happening to me? It's setting you up for what you do need and want in your life. You
mm,
know what you don't want. You don't want that. So let's move forward with knowing what you do need and want in a relationship. Remember, these are lessons. These are lessons that we're learning.
mhm.
Bargaining. I will do anything to change this. Anything. I'll swap my life for hers or his. That's deep, and you have to let yourself sit through it in the bargaining. Is like, but I wasn't chosen to go. I was chosen to stay here on this earth to what? Raise my kids. I was chosen here to
Mm,
bring word to this. I you may not see it now, but later down the road, your experience is going to help you through something. It and that's why, putting divorce or breakups, death of a partner kind of together is because you go through those same things. They set you up to, so you'll be able to know, okay, I'm grieving something here. Even with interpersonal relationships, meaning, like your best friend. Okay, let's
yes,
step outside of the box real quick. Your best
yes,
friend that you've had for 20 years,
mhm,
something went dysfunctional all of a sudden,
mhm,
and you had to cut them off.
mhm.
You go through these same stages.
Yep,
I can't believe that I had to do that. I can't
mhm,
believe he or she treated me that way. Then you're mad. Why is this happening to me? How did our 20-year relationship get thrown in the trash? How did that happen? And
that's
then you
right.
start bargaining and you're like, well, did I do something? What did I do? Well, if I can go back and correct it, owning that you can't. You got to sit through this bargaining, you guys. You sit with it. Sit
Mhm,
with these emotions that you're feeling during this grief. and really look at it with a magnifying glass. This is a state of self right here. You got to figure out who you are as an individual. When am I ready to move to the next phase of this
Mhm.
in this grief? The next is deepening. It's getting there. Depression. What's the point of going on after this loss? How can I go on? Isn't there a song? Without you? I think there's a song, that just hit me all of a sudden. I'm sorry, y'all. Squirrel.
There's a
But
song for every one of those, okay?
yes. I mean, boy, you know, that person who wrote that song was feeling something and hit
Mm,
that depression right on the head. Is let's talk about what depression is. It's not being able to think clearly. You feel like you're in a fog. You're unable to get up. You're unable to function and take care of your daily living skills.
mhm,
Now, you can go on autopilot, but there's still dysfunction.
mhm.
Like, you're driving and then you don't even see a car and you almost hit them and you swerve out the way. You're functioning, but not well. So depression can do that. I mean, just like Pastor Brenda said, is we just keep on moving. We that jack in the box. We just jumping over stuff. We're gonna put our body in autopilot. And once again, I told you the brain is very smart and intelligent. It's gonna help you from get to point A to point Z. May not be the healthiest way, but it's gonna help you get there. What can I gather from my past experiences that's going to help me through this? Well, you know what? I knew drinking really helped. So I'm going to go ahead and drink something. Then, one glass of wine doesn't help, but two does. Okay, in 2 weeks, that two goes from a bottle. So, that depression keeps deepening and deepening. And so you have to kind of sit with it, just like we were talking about, and taking the time that you need, but knowing that, hey, I've got to let go of this. I've got to live my authentic self. My authentic self wasn't here. My authentic self was moving, functioning, taking care of my children that are also in the midst of this loss and moving forward. So, in order for you to claim what is set before you after this, there's a victory in that. There's growth, there's healing. And last but not least, it's acceptance. It's gonna be okay. I'm okay. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm okay. And once you're able to say that, you are moving in the right direction.
Mhm.
Now, the thing about this is you can go through these things in a day. Okay? You can go through these things in a week, but don't disregard their place for you. This to me is like chapters in a book.
Wow.
These are things that you got to go through in order to get to the end of your story.
Mm,
So this is your mourning time. Yes, you got to go through it. But on the other side of that is learning, victory, growth, healing. You've hit that next level to get closer and closer to that spiritual connection that we desire. It's going to be okay. One of the things there's this is a one of the affirmations that I love to think on when I am going through the grieving process, or just anytime, any day, is I claim my desires. I hold great visions. I am ready to receive.
mm,
I claim my desires. I hold great visions. I am ready to receive. And that's moving forward
yes.
when you're going through all of this. After sat in it and felt it and owned it and know how to move past it and not being afraid, to embrace the pain, taking that shot, you move forward and you are ready to receive that lesson that's on the other side of that.
Mm.
All right, the next one. Learn how to love yourself at all cost. Prior to, we talked about forgiveness and forgiving ourselves and through all of this, and it's okay to have emotions, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to hold on, stop a minute, let me take some time to really sit with this. And I like this picture because it's jumping. Just jump in there. We're afraid, yeah, like standing outside. And I mean, why do you jump out of a perfectly good airplane? But go for it. Get out there, embrace life, and
Chris,
learning to love it. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I can't help myself. You know,
That's
I
okay.
would love to know, those that are listening to us, I would love to know what they thought the moment you put that slide on. Because the moment I saw the slide, I saw the picture. And I thought to myself, wow, okay, that meant to me, you got to take some chances.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, uh,
Yeah,
I'm
I want to see it on the chat. Somebody put in the
yes,
chat, what did y'all
I'm
think of that picture?
trusting the others that I'm holding arms with, and we are in the air. There is no footing underneath me. This is all about trusting enough to take
Mm,
the leap.
yes, ma'am.
Oh
And
my
then
God, that's
I
exactly what I saw.
specifically picked
I
that.
just want to know, what did you guys see when? I mean, could she have picked a better picture? What did y'all see? Because that's exactly what came to my brain when I saw
Mhm.
the picture.
Yep.
Awesome
And
picture
I
for where you going.
well, it's jumping in, after you've sat with that. I saw that picture and I was like, that's my next line. It's all in for yourself. It's jumping in there regardless of your fear. And I did get that picture in myself. That's why I said it is I'm going up in a plane and decide to go skydiving with my friends. Okay. And they're like, girl, you crazy. You're jumping out of a perfectly good plane that will land us safely and we'll be all good. We can still go back and do what we want to do. But no, it's that effort and that intentional living. I need to grow. It's time for me to leap
Mm,
into this and leave that behind and jump. And then, that circle of friends and the people that are closest to you
mm-hmm.
help you grow. And I don't know if you can see it, but there is a middle part of this. I'm going to blow it up again while I talk.
Yeah,
Uh, can y'all see that yet?
I
No.
can't see it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. But in the middle of that is a circle, and it's the people who have jumped first,
Mm-hmm.
right in the middle. That's
Mm-hmm.
your closest group of friends. Thinking about that. Then it gets further out. You got a ring, and then the next ring. And we're actually going to talk about that. And I'm going to show you guys a picture that's going to resemble why, you have those groups of people that you cling to that are good for you. You get to create that. Through
Mm-hmm.
all that you've been through, hopefully you're looking through a better lens of like, okay, this is what I need around me. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a state of self. Number one, you can't win the war against the work if you can't win the war against your own mind.
Mm-hmm.
You can't win the war against the work if you can't win the war against your own mind. Our mind will keep us on that plane, and you'll be stuck in that pain over and over, and you'll be going through this cycle over and over, and you're just like, I can't break free. I can't break free out of fear, out of fear. So you got to take an evaluation of taking of SOS, a state of self, and then taking time, and then we'll go back and circle around of taking the L and what that looks like. And that's the lesson, not the loss. So this is our state of self. Looking in the mirror, checking in on yourself. Who's the real you? What's authentically happening? Who is the real you in the mirror? We always like to have that representative. We have our Instagram selves, we have our Facebook self, we have our TikTok self, but who is the real person that has to, speak to you across that mirror? That's what state of self is. And you start breaking it down and you start asking yourself the questions. So remember that skydivers, you see our circle again. We got a circle. So this is your circle of people around you. And then you get to branch out and really evaluate your life. Who is my family? Who are my closest people to me that I can reach out to and I can depend on? And there's no pride
Mhm.
in that, that you can put your pride aside and say, hey, I can call up Pastor Brenda and say, hey, Pastor Brenda, the lights are out over here. And, we're in the middle of this snow vid and I need some help. Who is that family
Mhm.
member that you can reach out to? You get to create that in your state of self. So reevaluate your lives, you guys. As you're going through this, it is an adjustment. This is that chapter that you guys get to write the next one when you're going through it. And so this gives you an opportunity to reevaluate that. If you lost someone to death or breakup or divorce, being estranged, that you just been left high and dry, they're still alive. They're out there somewhere. You see them on Instagram, but they're not around. You know, you get to reevaluate who you have in your corner and who's around you. This is a lesson. This is the next jumping off point, if you will, in your life, and you get to redefine it. Remember that push I was telling you about that God gives us?
Mhm.
It's time to wake up. He doesn't want you in this same mode. It's time to elevate. It's time to move. We've got to evolve. I equate it to, like, in the church, you start your church like you guys did, Pastor Brenda. You started your church, but you guys had to get with technology because COVID said no, ma'am, right? You guys had to
Mhm.
branch out to figure out how to do it, communicating like virtually. I mean, you have done two bang up jobs with virtual, workshops. You had to learn that,
Mhm.
right? You got pushed out of that plane.
Yes, very much so.
So
Yes.
we have to step outside of our comfort zones, okay? And learning to love yourself is learning to embrace yourself. So, who is your family? Look at your career, look at your health. And those
Mhm.
little bobbles around there is to fill in. What does that health look like? Well, I want to get up
Mhm.
earlier. I want to be off these meds. I want to lose some pounds. That's what those are for. The career, stop being afraid of not going out there and starting your own business. Don't be afraid to get
Right.
another education or a parallel one. Don't be afraid you know and you could put in these little bubbles around you, wealth building. What does that look like? What kind of financials am I working with? Hey,
Mm.
even when you feel ready, you could put in new partner, new spouse in one of those. But first you got to decide on what those expectations are and who's you're living up to. I mean, we've already moved through the storm, you guys, that mourning part. So you no longer can live up to the expectations of your parents and what they would think and how they would think because they
Mhm.
didn't experience the timeline that you did. So you have to take from it your perspective and how you want to redevelop it.
That's right.
Learning to love yourself. hmm The next one is
Mm.
taking time. That's so hard. Be still and know that I am God. Let my love be the loudest sound in your heart. And that's where I get into taking that silence. And so I got this from Jay Shetty, and he has a book called Think Like a Monk. And one of the things that he had spoke about is simplicity of a monk. He used to be a monk and he was there for, I think, 2 years, uh 2.5 years as a monk, but it didn't fit him. His calling was to be out and to talk to people about how to be a monk, and how to simplify your life. So he had this set up, and that was time, taking time, and it was thankfulness, insight, meditation and prayer, and exercise. And during with thankfulness, it's, being thankful and grateful for what you do have. Once again, I'm going to go back to
Mhm.
that prefrontal lobe that we have, that if we've been hurt or in pain, we filter everything through that. And so it's so hard to see anything to be thankful about. Right? Just think about
Hmm.
it. Think about you guys out there that are listening. I mean, if you think about your ex spouse, the one you lost, or the situation that surrounded it, it's hard to find anything to be thankful about, right? From that, because of what you're receiving it through, that hurt and that
Mhm.
pain. So, in order to let go, you have to find it. You have to intentionally find those things to be grateful about. I got to spend time with my partner while he or she was here on this earth. And what did I learn? I learned this. I learned that. That's being thankful and grateful for those things. You just have to be still and look at it intentionally. And I know it may be painful to try, but that's reprogramming, and it's challenging that inner critic in there. You have to challenge it. You have to break through that ceiling. And then it's insight. Feed yourself, you guys. Pick up a book, pick up a Bible. It doesn't have to be the Bible. It could be something that's going to give you personal development so you can be better, so you can learn how to forgive. If you have to get a book about forgiveness and read it, I highly recommend it. Because even when I have clients come into me dealing with grief and, divorce and things like that, I give them things to read because I'm not with them every day, but we will process things, and so you need that adjacent word to come in to be the loudest sound that you hear. So your mind is going to only filter things through what you're seeing it through. So the more positivity and good word and spirituality and connectedness that you put in your mind, it's hard to find any negative. And if it does come, you sit with it a little bit and then you reframe it. Thank you for that lesson. I needed to see that. Thank you so much. Thank you for, helping me be better, Lord. That's what I needed. I needed to see that and accepting it. That meditation and prayer, that's your quiet time, you guys. That's the time where you allow that time to be connected. However you do it, whenever you do it, but it needs to be done often. It's taking the time
Yes.
to be intentional. I mean, even, you know, people that are non-believers have to do some type of meditation because they got to connect somehow, and that's my scientific belief on that. Advice, anything, you've got to be connected.
Yes.
So give it that time that it deserves to listen and be still so you can hear
Yes.
it. And then exercise, move your body. Okay. Things in motion, objects in motion tend to stay in motion. So, adding just some movement and some stretching when you're feeling down will help. I know it will. I've seen it happen. Okay. So take time. TIME, thankfulness, insight, meditation, prayer, and exercise. All right. Yes,
Christina,
ma'am.
we did have a
Okay.
question in our feed, and that question says, "What do you do when you don't like the you see in the mirror?"
I like it. I love it. So when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, that's the start of self-reflection, the state of self. So, what are the things that you don't like about yourself? What are those things? And you have to take inventory. Well, I don't like that. Outside of the physical, we can handle the physical later if you want to get a nose job or whatever. That's, up to you. But underneath all that,
Hmm.
the negative connotations, you have to start with forgiveness. Forgiving yourself for being negative to yourself. I do this with some of my clients. I have them write down the negative stuff. Okay. Now this is very immersive therapy, but I have it write it down, and I take it from them, this page, and I read it to them out loud. You are so wrong for talking about people. You're not considerate. You're hateful to your mom. And I keep reading that to them. And I was like, so how does that feel? That is so mean, isn't it? But you're saying that to yourself in the mirror. That's hurtful, right? So why continue to do that? Forgive yourself and tell yourself immediately, I am so sorry for looking at you like that and saying those kind of things to you. I am so sorry. Forgive yourself. I forgive me, because God didn't make no mistake with this. We were giving free will to do with what are ourselves what we choose. So you can choose to love yourself or not love yourself. You get to choose that. And so then after that, after my client has heard how they've been talking to themselves, what do you consider yourself to be? How do you want to see yourself? Who do you want to look like? What do you want it to look like? Okay? So you have this person. So what do you want it to look like? And then once you
Mm.
start answering those questions, well, I want to be upstanding. I want to do this. Okay, you're breaking down a brick on that wall that you have put in your head. Yes, and you can be all of that. It takes one step. One step in that direction. The next best step is, I want to be more educated. Okay. There's schools everywhere. And you know what? Prices are going down because people need to be in universities because they need their money. Okay. So you get online, and it doesn't even have to be, an education of like going back to a university or a college. You can get certifications. They're making it so accessible to people online at home. I don't have the funds. Well, that sounds like an excuse, because there are ways that you can go to school at low cost or no cost. Dallas County
Mhm.
side, TCC side. So you remember those bubbles that we had, that family that was pointing into somebody? Who are your circle of friends? Who are you surrounding yourself with? When you look in the mirror, you have to ask the tough questions. Okay, I don't like who I'm seeing. Well, who do you want to be? And you have access to that. When you're looking at yourself in this camera, and you're looking at yourself, or you're not looking at yourself because you don't like looking at yourself, it starts with forgiving yourself for those thoughts. God didn't make no mistake with this. So where do you go from here? The next best step is to use that flow chart and start picking out those things that I need to work on in order for me to be that better self for the future. So you hop on that train and you take the next best step that you know. And if you don't know how to do it, you can contact me, you can contact Pastor, you can contact this circle, this group, because there's 63 people in this event. So out 63 people will probably respond to you, out sans yourself, to reach out
Mm.
if you can't quite see it. But it starts with you, yes, in the mirror. And who do you want to be? And be kinder to yourself.
Can I?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
You
Yeah,
good.
I just want to also share, as we're kind of conversing on this level and answering that question, and we invite so many more. Please feel
Mhm,
free. That's what we want to use this platform as a dialogue.
mhm,
But there's some things when when I do inventory over my life, when I um, do a full discovery, as they say in the world of the judicial system, and I see everything for what it is. I realize that there are some things that I can change,
mhm,
but there's some things I can't change.
mhm.
Some things, I cannot go back and fix. Some things I am not going to be able to reconstruct. So I've got to find peace
Mm. Yes, ma'am.
within myself, regardless to where I am, where I've gone, and where I want to
Oh,
go.
yes, ma'am. That's it.
Because I cannot change some incidences in my life.
Cannot.
And because I can't change it, I will not let them define me.
Hmm.
I cannot allow them to take the joy from me. Because if I'm concentrating on what I cannot change, then I am being self-destructive.
Yes.
Because if there's nothing I can do about it, then I've got to redirect my
Yes,
energy.
ma'am. Mm.
And if the weight is the issue, you can do something about that.
Yes.
You know, if the hairdo the issue, you can kind of do something about that. You can buy stuff for that
Yes, you
too.
can.
So you can do some things about that.
Hmm.
But those things that you can't, we have to learn how to release ourselves from giving it
Yes,
power
over.
over us so that we can
Mm.
find the truth that is in us, that we may be effective for those that are around us. When we really come to when we really have that come to Jesus with ourselves, we find that we are here for more than just ourselves.
Yes.
Uh, our destiny is extensive. I liked family, friends, life, job. What? Oh, I like the circles because we're not just here for
Mm.
us. We are here to impact the planet, to make an imprint so that somebody somewhere will say, that woman touched my life. And I'm a better person because that person, the one that you look in the mirror and say, I don't like, but they look at it and say, my God, I would never be where I am today had it not been for her.
Mm. That's right.
So we fail sometimes to see our own value when we're putting too much emphasis on who we are not in our
Yep.
eyes.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Amen to that. Because that is so true. We do. And when you do put it in that respect, is you're putting more energy into the things you don't have. Oh, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. So what are you going to get more of? All the negative stuff. So that's why I said it's so important to feel your brain and your mind and challenge that inner critic with good stuff. And another thing that you had spoke of that is so true because outside people don't see you as you think you see yourself. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
Did I say that right?
yes,
We
we'll talk about it.
yes, we see ourselves much worse than the other person sees us. And
Mhm.
so once you do, and I love how this works because it has been really beneficial for me, just learning how to love myself is God uses people all the time because sometimes when we are in that mist, you guys, we can't hear God, but He uses our friends and our family and other means
Mhm.
to get that word across. Like we're looking in our mirror and we're like, oh, we don't see anything, good about ourselves, but yet and still somebody says, oh, girl, I love that hairstyle on you. Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you so much for opening the door for me. Those things are those little things that God is showing you and trying to renew your spirit of knowing, hey, you do have value, you do have self worth. Like you said, in that, in society, in the community, that's what we're here for, not just for ourselves, but to aid others. So pay attention to what those people say around you when they give you
Mhm.
accolades because they are really helpful and enriching. Okay. So, my
Mhm.
last kind of slide, we're almost to the end here, is taking the L. And I know that's alarming to see. And you're like, what? Taking the L? Are you kidding? What does that mean? Take the lesson, not the
Mhm.
loss. And what that means is show up for yourself.
Ah,
Okay? Show up for yourself. Rather than staying locked in the house or, covered all up. Hey, you know what? I'm showing up for myself today. I choose me. Love, peace, and abundance. Okay? It's
mm,
here for me. All is well, and so it is. Give yourself those pep talks. Permission to be human. You guys, we're human. Remember that. Forgive yourself for the transgressions and the mistakes that you made because we are forgiven.
mm.
All you have to do is ask, right? So, next is what do you want your future self to know? Okay, so just like the young lady asked about not liking who you saw in the mirror, this led right into it, and I'm glad you asked it. Thank you. Visualize your future self. What do you need to tell her or him? Hmm? What does that future self look like? What do speak positivity into that? You're looking at the mirror, you're looking at yourself. What do you want to see? I want to see an entrepreneur. Christia, you are an entrepreneur and you're strong beyond what you think you are today. You've become the most absolute best at this. You are the best mom that you could ever be. You are learning how to co parent with your divorce partner. You have learned how to excel in your own realm of being. You're better than what you thought you were at that time. Being your real self and accepting. Pastor Barbara, you had mentioned, um, I said Barbara, Brenda, excuse me, I'm talking too fast. About, not being able to correct those things that you did in the past. You can't. You can't. You own those. That's a part of what makes me of who I am. I'm tough.
That's right.
I'm tough. I'm resilient. Look, I made it through this, and I'm gonna make it through this too. That future
Hmm.
self. Tell yourself that every day, every morning. You are okay. And then next,
Yeah.
knowing when you are through it and not just suppressing it. Mm.
Ah,
So you'd referred to it before of like, living in that little box and shell and just jumping right on over it. And that jumping,
mm,
that's suppressing it. Okay. All right, it's gone. It's whatever. My friends tell me I need to get out there again and start dating and I need to do this and get over it. And so you suppress it. You suppress those real true feelings. So that's when you're suppressing it. You're not over it yet. When you're through it, you see yourself as a strong individual, a resilient individual, a powerful individual.
mhm,
That's what you see for the future self. That's when you know that you're
mhm,
through it and that you're not triggered by, some clothes that your partner had left behind or that in death you haven't completely moved out. You're not triggered by, somebody posting something. You're just like, I wish them well. I hope that they find get it together. And you're not forcing something. You're not forcing another relationship. That's how because you're like, ooh, I gotta hurry up and find me a man. This, my clock is ticking. That doesn't mean you're over it. It means you're suppressing it. You're just trying to glance over it. But no, you gotta go through it. You gotta go through that storm. And you gotta go through the eye to get to the other side. So
all
there
right.
may be some peace and calm in the middle of that, but then you have to be ready and gear up for the other side of that storm. Okay? How's that feel, ladies and gentlemen?
I think it's amazing because um, this lesson, of course, was had our a different kind of single perhaps in mind, but how I wished I would have made it available to everybody because we all have experienced loss in some way or another, in some form or another.
Mm,
And it's so valuable that we understand that when we come through, that you ain't seen nothing yet.
mm-hmm.
I am so much better. I am so much better today than I was yesterday. Can I preach?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm better. I'm better. I'm better today than I was yesterday. I feel the strength in me. I feel like I can overcome. I'm looking at some of the comments. When you asked the question about your
The
future
self,
self,
yes.
I want y'all to answer that. I want to see what you're saying.
Yes.
Tell me what your future self is, because this is why I want you to write it.
Mm,
The Bible says, write the vision
yes.
and make it plain. You believe more that when you write it down, when you speak it, and when you physically acknowledge it.
Come on.
Write it down.
Yep.
Let yourself see you writing it down. I am, I see a self that goes beyond the pain and the hurt. Okay, yeah, that's what we talked about in the beginning. But boy, I see the sun. I'm about to hit the top of that hill. And because I'm about to hit the top of that hill, I got more momentum.
That's right.
I got more momentum. I got the strength, Christia, because your strength begins to it begins to you get more oh
Hmm.
gosh, what do I want to say? I'm looking at a snowball
Momentum.
as it goes down. Yeah, you get it. And it gets in more and more and more and more snow. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger because you're moving. You're in motion. You talked about exercise, that
Hmm.
motion will dissipate um immobility and
Hmm.
flaccidness. It does. And so I get excited thinking about movement. I don't care if all you got today is a wave. Tomorrow you might have two of them. Throw the head in there with the next one. You just got to see it and validate
Yes.
it and
Yes,
celebrate
ma'am.
it and
Yes,
celebrate
ma'am.
it. That's all that's important. Every step must be
And you know
validated.
what else? I want to piggyback on that. You're so right. I am a big believer. Get a journal, and I said that before. Have a notebook and pen. Write this stuff down, and write it
Hmm.
down. It's real when you write it down. And once again, once you get it out of the head, out of your head that's swimming around with negative stuff, you want to keep that straight because you're like, I'm just going to combat this with some power here. So you gotta put that in front of you. And so when you guys write your affirmations, thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Ronnie. I mean, this is for real. Thank you, Keandra, for yes, I'm here for somebody. Somebody wants me. Somebody needs me. This is going to be seen by somebody tomorrow. Yes, write it down, and then you attach a feeling to it. So it starts with a thought.
Hmm.
Okay. You may not believe it at first, you guys. Come on. All right. I'm going to be real. You may not believe it at first. It may be hard to say, girl, you sure did slay in that dress yesterday. And okay, I'm a woman. You have those imperfections, but it's you. It's you. You go through it. You figure it out. You're like, okay, you can lose weight. All right, but you know how. Move. Get up. If that means stretching for 5 or 10 minutes, and then you get into moving a little bit more. The next time you're able to do a whole 30 minutes. Fake it till you make it. Okay. All right. I mean, not saying that's unauthentic to yourself, because the true self is in there, but it's clouded by all the
Mhm.
negative thinking that we're doing. So you put a timestamp on that feeling of how it feels to say, you know what? Today is the first day of the rest of my life, and embrace it.
Yes, it is.
Embrace it, and
I
think
love it.
about how that feels. Think about going forward tomorrow, ready to jump out of that plane, and you have
Yes.
no inhibitions because you're not afraid. And if you do become afraid, you know what to do and how to work through it. It's not being afraid, you guys. Everybody's fearful of something, okay? It's
Yes.
what you do with it. It's what you do
Mhm.
with it. You can be afraid, but still you walk through that door, you know? So you keep walking, and then you take action. So if you can think it and write it down, you attach a feeling to that, and then you take action.
Wow.
Be better than yesterday, you guys. Be better than yesterday. And today is still young, so you got plenty of time to do it. And this is the start of allowing to be ministered to, not only your mind, but your heart and spiritually.
Yes.
So,
Christine, make sure
mhm.
that those that are joining us, because we're almost out of time.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, it just goes so fast.
I know.
Can you share your information
Oh,
and
yes. Yes, yes, yes.
all of that fun stuff before we um, prepare to go? Because I know we're kind of trying to move it, but oh my goodness, it just
Yes,
came up so fast.
it
You're
did. I
like,
apologize for that.
oh, apologize. Oh no. This
Thank you for
We
being patient.
always
Thank you for
have
being
a
patient.
little bit of time to go from one session to another session. Um, but this
Here
was
you
this
go.
was very enriching, and I don't think anyone that joined us today can say this was a waste of our time.
Wow. It
It
wasn't a
was
waste of mine. I always love to learn and hear, and so it's
valuable.
invaluable. Hmm.
It's valuable, and we want. I don't believe that we can um, advance spiritually if we don't address ourselves naturally.
Ooh, I like that. I
The
like
Bible
that.
says first natural, then spiritual, and
Hmm.
we have to be willing uh, to uh, embrace ourselves, um, the, the the natural makeup of who we are before we can embrace the spiritual. And so I believe that is an important aspect of growth in our lives, you know. And then I'm not a Christian that's trying to to act out something that we don't even believe.
Right. Yep.
But we are true to our own human nature so that we can be effective um, in a more spiritual dynamic environment.
That's right.
So
I love it. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this again. I love it. I always feel so
let me
good.
join
Ooh,
in with you.
I love it.
And thank you guys for joining us.